Hello, welcome to lesson 4. In this lesson I will be breaking down how to change the key of any song using a capo. This lesson covers what a capo is and how to change the key of any song and the G and A major scales. This is a capo. Yours might look slightly different, but they basically all do the same thing. Essentially what the capo does is it bars a whole fret. Everyone uses capos, not just beginners. Okay, so changing the key of any song. So we have our 1-5-6-4 progression in the key of C major, like we discussed in the previous episode. So if I was to put the capo on the 2nd fret and then play the exact same chord progression, you'll notice it sounds slightly different, and that is because the capo has changed the key of the song. So this means my C chord has now been moved up one tone, or a whole step. So if you look at all the notes in order and you count 2 semitones up from C, you'll go C, C sharp, and D. So that means my C chord is now a D chord. So this means using the capo on the 2nd fret and playing a C chord, my C chord shape is actually a D chord. This logic applies to any chords you play in C major with the capo on the 2nd fret. So my G chord is actually an A chord. So I'm playing a G chord shape to play an A chord. My A minor chord is actually a B minor chord. My F chord is actually a G chord. Using this logic, you can move the capo to any fret and you can play in any key using the chord shapes that you learn in C major. So if I move the capo to the 5th fret, my C chord becomes an F chord. Capos can also be a useful tool if you need to change the key of a song because it doesn't quite fit in your vocal range. So let's say you're playing She Will Be Loved by Maroon 5 with your capo on the 5th fret. If you feel like the song's slightly too high and doesn't fit in your vocal range, what you can now do is move the capo down a semitone to the 4th fret. Now, there are some limitations, so you will eventually run out of frets because you can only move the capo so high, so it is still important to learn chords in different keys. The next thing I recommend you learn is the 1-5-6-4 progression in G major and A major. I'm now going to play the 1-5-6-4 progression in the key of G major. The 1-5-6-4 progression in G major is G, D, E minor, and C. Now this is a much nicer 1-5-6-4 progression because you don't have to worry about that nasty F chord. However, in the key of G, the 3 chord is B minor. A way to get around this, if you're a beginner, is just to play it like this. Once again, using a capo, the same logic applies. So if I'm in the key of G major and I put the capo on the 2nd fret, my G chord becomes an A chord. I'm now going to play the 1-5-6-4 progression in A major. The 1 chord is A, the 5 chord is E, the 6 chord is F sharp minor, and then the 4 chord is D. Once again, that F sharp minor is a bar chord and it is a bit difficult for beginners, so you can always play it like this. And if that's a little bit too much of a challenge, you can just play it with one finger like this. Just make sure that you do not strum any of those top 3 strings. Make sure you go away and practice that chord progression in all 3 of those keys until you're comfortable. In the next lesson, I'll be covering strumming patterns.